Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Brett Kavanaugh has been sworn into his new position on the Supreme Court, but the left has one arrow left in the quiver, one way they think they can stop him from serving on the court. We're going to tell you what it is later in the show, joined by our liberal Sherpa, Kathy Aru. She'll try to explain it. It's unbelievable, and we're not overstating that. But first tonight, Kanye West, as you know, spoke at the White House yesterday. He drew a huge amount of news coverage for what he said. Commentators generally were not impressed. Many of them dismissed the whole thing as a sideshow, and in some ways they were right about that. West made a number of interesting points, but in the end, he's just an entertainer. Donald Trump was there too. He is the president of the United States. He's the most powerful man in the world, and yet also, like the rest of us, ultimately he's just passing through. There will be other presidents. The question we should care about is bigger than two people, any two people. This is the most important question. Is America still a free country? Can people openly express their beliefs in public? Are they still allowed to say what they think is true without being punished for it? That's what matters most. It matters far more than any single politician or rapper or midterm election. And by that standard, the one that matters, what happened yesterday at the White House tells us a lot about America right now, much of it ominous. In case you missed it, here's part of what Kanye West said yesterday.
You know, people expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. I've had conversations that basically said that welfare is the reason why a lot of black people end up being Democrat. They say, you know, first of all, it's a limit to amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs, and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home.
So to sum up, Kanye West says that liberal social programs have undermined the black family. He notes that African Americans face enormous pressure not to support Republicans. And he suggests that the Democratic Party often displays undisguised contempt for men and for masculinity. When you think about it, these are not especially controversial statements. They are all obviously true. For one thing, anyone who pays any attention at all already knows that. What West said is so hard to rebut factually that nobody even tried to do that. Instead, they attacked him as a person. They attacked his decency and his mental condition. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because this is now a universal tactic on the left. They don't want to argue with you. They want to denounce you. Watch Don Lemon over at CNN deliver his deep critique of President Trump's domestic program.
Why doesn't President Trump condemn racism? His own words and actions tell you why. He's a racist. Well, let me not mince words here. This president traffics in racism. Roseanne's tweet was straight up racist, yet the president failed to condemn it. Why? Because he can't. Because his own words and actions are racist too. And we have to stop pretending that this president has nothing to do with it, that he's not emboldening racist and racism.
The best thing about this style of argument is you don't actually have to learn anything, master any details, because facts are irrelevant. What you're saying is, my opponents are bad people. You must ignore them. So it wasn't obvious, though, how the left was going to pull any of this off with Kanye West. At first, they attacked him as crazy, but that didn't really make sense. If you think that Kanye West is mentally ill, why are you attacking him for that? And, of course, you can't really call Kanye West racist because he's black. But then Don Lemon cracked the code. You must ignore Kanye West, Lemon explained to the rest of us, because Kanye West is a traitor to his race. Watch this.
What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans. And now all of a sudden, he is the person who represents the African American community. He doesn't. This was an embarrassment. Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
There you go. According to Don Lemon, Kanye West's skin color means that he is required to behave in a very specific way. If he chooses to behave in any other way, he should be punished. Because according to Don Lemon, Kanye West's race is his destiny. It defines everything about him. People used to talk like this 50 years ago as they defended racial segregation in the American South. What a surprise to learn they are still talking that way, but this time it's on CNN. Michael Eric Dyson went even further, though, than Don Lemon. For the crime of being friendly with a politician he doesn't like, he says that Kanye West is actually, despite all obvious appearances, a practicing white supremacist. Watch this.
This is time for us to say, Kanye, we as African-American people cannot stand idly by while you give cover to a man who is proved to be a white supremacist. This is white supremacy by ventriloquism. A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth.
Keep in mind, they're calling Kanye West the crazy one. But of course they don't mean it. They wouldn't be so angry at him if they did mean it. The real fear is that Kanye West isn't crazy at all, and that you might listen to him. This isn't about Kanye West or even about Donald Trump. It's about power. Most things are. Suddenly, a small number of ideological gatekeepers basically control what everybody else in this country is allowed to say and think. These people work at Google, and CNN, in the U.S. Senate, maybe even down the hall from your office in the corporate sensitivity department. They're enjoying the power they have because people always enjoy having power. But they're worried because they know they can only maintain this system, the one they benefit from, through fear and lying. If enough people to decide to ignore their rules and think for themselves, it's over. They have no more power. A whole country of people saying what they think is true. That's their nightmare. That's what they fear the most. It could all start, by the way, with a single person. I don't know, a rapper speaking stream of consciousness one afternoon in the Oval Office. And from there, who knows where it could go? Other people might stop hiding their unapproved opinions. It's a terrifying prospect to them. Free speech is like a virus. Better to stop it while you can. Don Lemon is no genius, but he understands that. Dory Murdoch is a contributing editor at National Review Online, and he joins us tonight. Dory, what are they saying, really are they saying, about Kanye West?
Well, Tucker, they're saying a couple of things. One is that unlike back in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement, you may recall a number of protesters holding up signs that said, "I am a man."
Yeah.
Essentially, they're saying that he's not able to say that. He has to hold up signs that says, "I am not a man. I'm not allowed to think on my own. I may not have my own opinions. I must do whatever the liberal orthodoxy says." And because he didn't do that, people aren't saying, well, Kanye was wrong on this or he's mistaken on that issue. He had his facts wrong. They denounced him as a minstrel, Negro, kind of words you've not heard since Jim Crow was buried back in the mid-1960s. I think it's absolutely extraordinary. You know, you come on every night, people disagree with you and tell you you're wrong, but nobody says, well, Tucker, you're a bad white person, or you're white trash, or anything like that.
Exactly right.
They just disagree with your views, but they attack him as a human being and try to remove his blackness from him, which I think is extraordinary and hideous and disgusting.
But they're not even really treating him as a human being with autonomy and the right to form his own opinions, reach his own conclusions. They're treating him as an interchangeable piece of a larger whole, like a nameless, faceless drone who must obey.
He's a drone who's fallen out of line, and they can't have that. And the fear I think they have is that people will listen to him and start asking questions like, well, isn't it interesting that we've had a president who, after a year and a half, has managed to bring black unemployment to its lowest level in history? We're growing at twice where we were 2 years ago. And suddenly black folks start to think, well, maybe this president's working out, his policies aren't this racist attack we've heard about, that they might suddenly start voting that way, and the Democrats will be in very big trouble. So very important to knock Kanye down, attack him, degrade him, and dehumanize him, which is exactly what the left is doing tonight.
Have you ever seen anything like this? So, I mean, am I misremembering? We're roughly the same age. I don't remember people using terms like that. Terms that are so ugly, I'm actually not going to repeat them, and I'm not a very shy person. People didn't used to talk like that on television, did they, until recently?
Not so much, not to this level, and almost as uniformly and consistently across any number of cable channels, various people coming out. This Professor Dyson from my alma mater, Georgetown University, saying the kinds of things he is, that Kanye is a white supremacist, that he's a ventriloquist, that I guess Trump is the puppeteer, you know, pulling his strings or something like this. I mean, if Donald Trump were a white supremacist, why would he have one of America's biggest rappers in the Oval Office? Wouldn't that destroy his white supremacist base? I mean, if David Duke were president, do you think he'd have Kanye West in the Oval Office? This makes absolutely no sense. It's not logical. And I think it just shows the tremendous state of desperation in which the Democratic left finds itself today.
It's interesting the level of bullying that goes on. I mean, you think if they really thought he was crazy, And they're saying he's crazy because I guess it's okay to mock people's mental illness now.
That's right.
That's a new rule, too, that I'm
Sanism,
having to get used
you
to.
call it.
Exactly. But if they really thought that he was out of his mind, they would smile indulgently like you do to the guy eating imaginary insects on the bus, right?
Exactly.
They don't think he's crazy.
Or you call a doctor in to help him out, something
Exactly.
like that.
Well, thank you.
Well, look,
exactly.
He talked about job creation. He talked about specifically improving the economy and the crime disaster in Chicago. He talked about Montessori schools. I mean, it was definitely a stream of consciousness kind of monologue, if you will, but he had some very solid things he had to say in there. And he also made the point that where is it written that if you're black, you have to be a Democrat? And he seems to be breaking away from that notion. And if enough blacks break away from that notion, the Democrats are going to be in really bad shape because blacks constitute such a large part of the Democratic base that if 8 out of 10 black folks stay Democrat and 2 out of 10 decide to vote Republican, the Democrats are going to go the way of the Whig Party, and they'll be gone.
So, but look, you've been in journalism a long time. You've got opinions. I certainly have them. They're on full display. But wouldn't you feel a little bit, wouldn't your conscience ache a little if you found yourself night after night repeating the nastiest possible talking points on behalf of a political party and pretending that you were a journalist? Would you do that? I've heard you attack the Republican Party many times.
I wouldn't do that. I try to talk about, I present my opinions and try to back them up with facts and figures and quotes and evidence. These people aren't doing that. They scream, oh, Trump's a racist, he's a racist, he's a racist. Where's the proof of that? If he were racist, why did he go campaign in black churches in Detroit and in Flint, Michigan? Why did he go campaign in a charter school in Cleveland? Why did he bring in, one of his very first acts, the presidents of historically black colleges and universities and welcome them and then open an office in the White House to assist them? He made the MLK birthplace a national historical monument, something Obama could have done. He had 8 years. He couldn't bother to do that. And President Trump actually did that. Not the kind of behavior you'd expect to see out of a white supremacist.
They're just saying what they think they have to say. It's just remarkable what hacks they are. It's really contemptible.
And cruel. I mean, cruel.
I totally agree. I've never, look, I don't know anything about Kanye West. I'm not having dinner with him, but it's mean. And it's too mean. Even for me. And I'm a talk show host. It's too much.
Very mean for the party of tolerance, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Joy, great to see you tonight.
Great
Thank
to see
you.
you, Tucker. Thank you.